All right, this will wrap up our last section in chapter 1, and we're going to talk about order of operations, and we're also going to do some more complicated adding of like terms, bringing in the distributive property at the end of this section. So first we need to define an exponent. You've seen me write this one time already in an earlier lesson. M to the n means m multiplied by itself n times. For instance, we did this when we did the factorization. If I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, I've multiplied the number 2 by itself 4 times. So I can rewrite this as 2 to the 4th, and it makes it a little more simple rather than writing that out, especially if you have something that's like 2 to the 30th. That would be quite a few 2's to write out. So this enables us to simplify that notation. The 2 is known as the base, and the 4 is known as the exponent. So just a little background information there. All right, our order of operations. I've typed it all out for you. You might have remembered this as being PEMDAS, standing for parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and then subtract. And so a lot of us are familiar with teachers that use the PEMDAS expression. I would caution you here because this is where students often make mistakes. So we multiply and divide from left to right. So occasionally divide comes before we multiply. So I don't list that as a separate step. You have to group that together. And so this can be a little bit misleading because it gives you the impression that you would always multiply first, and that is not necessarily the case. So I have several examples when we get into that. First, we're going to kind of practice our exponents here. And we do a whole chapter with exponents further in chapter 4. So if we have x multiplied by itself 3 times, we have x to the third. We have -3 here multiplied by itself 4 times. And so we have -3 to the 4th. That is not the same thing as -3 to the 4th, which I'll cover in just a second. So you need to make sure that that negative is included in your parenthesis when you rewrite that and when you simplify it. All right, so here we rewrote using these exponents. If we simplified this, this means -3 multiplied by itself 4 times. So if I do this without a calculator, think through our grouping. -3 times -3 is a +9. This -3 times that -3 is a +9. And so this would be a +81. So we're going to continue to simplify here below. 4 squared means 4 times 4, and so the answer would be 16. -5 inside that parentheses to the third power, which mean -5 times -5 times another -5. And so since we have an odd number of negatives, my answer is going to be negative. And so -125. If you're using your calculator, you want to look for some type of, we call it the caret. And so usually most calculators have an exponent key if you're using that as a shortcut. All right, so why weren't these two the same? I'm going to address that right here. When you put your negative inside your parenthesis, you're telling, you're communicating that you want to include that when you perform the operation of the exponent. So -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 will give you a +16. Here, imagine that it's almost like you're saying -1 times 2 to the 4th. You're separating that. You're saying you want the opposite of 2 to the 4th. And so this answer here is a negative 16. And this is a real tricky situation for some students if you're not just really careful of that notation. All right, and here as well, these two things are not the same. Notice here, the 2 is inside that parenthesis, and so this says 2x times 2x times 2x, which would technically be 8x to the third. But over here on this side, only the x is attached to the exponent. And so that is just exactly what it says, 2 times x to the third. So you would do x to the third first and then just multiply it by 2. So some notation here with C and D, just so you're aware of some tricks. All right, so here we get into order of operations. I feel like I could do maybe 20 of these and you would never see all of the types there are to learn. So, you do get an online version of your textbook if you need to practice more of these. All of the odds in your text have the answers included. So if you'd like to try additional problems, the odds are there for you to check on your own. All right, so please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Oh, I probably didn't mention that. That's the little mnemonic device that maybe you remember how that all goes. So we're going to multiply here before we add. So you would not do 5 plus 3. You would multiply here first because multiply comes before addition. So this would become 5 plus 21. Which is 26. On B, we always start off with parentheses and exponents. So this is your starting point here. So negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. So we're going to do that. And we see this subtraction sign separating these, but we multiply before we subtract. So I'm going to multiply these two numbers and get 108. I am going to multiply these two numbers to 16. And then I'm going to subtract at the end. 108 take away 16 is 92. Here we have divide in the mix, but we always start off with our exponents. So 9 minus 3 squared is 9, divided by 9. What do we do first? Do we subtract or we divide? We divide first because the D comes first in our list of order of operations. And so we do this piece next. So 9 divided by 9 is 1, 9 over 9, if you think of it like that. 9 take away 1 leaves 8. We're going to start here inside this parentheses. So 5 plus 3, and we're going to simplify there. 2 take away 6 is a negative 4. Next, I'm going to handle that exponent. So negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. Next, I'm going to deal with the fact that I'm going to do the multiply before I add. So 3 times 16 is 48. And 5 plus 48 is 53. Moving down here. All right, so it can get quite complicated. I showed you one here. We're going to work from inside the bracket. So parentheses can mean a lot of things. You can have double parentheses, you can have brackets. So you work inside any kind of containment notation first. So we're going to go all the way into the inner piece right here. And so 3 minus 5 is negative 2. And then I'm going to do this exponent next. And so you can work this out and write out quite a lot of steps. if we want to write it one step at a time. So that 2 is this 2 times negative 2 squared. Negative 2 squared is 4. If you do not need to write out every single step, then you can shortcut that. But as the instructor, I feel like I need to show you every single step until we get the hang of this. And so we're going to just keep rewriting this 8 divided by 4 plus 3 until I'm ready to deal with that. So inside this bracket still, I need to do the multiply before I add. So 2 times 4 is 8. Nine plus 8 is 17. And now I am ready. Now I've got everything down to either divide, multiply, or addition. So I'm going to work from left to right, and I am going to divide first. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, plus 3 times 17 is 51. And so now I can do 2 plus 51 is 53. Is that what this answer was too? Wow, that's so coincidental. All right. So I have a few more here, and then we evaluate as well, and we use the order of operations. So you can use this one as a try. Don't let the fraction throw you. All right, we're going to start right here with this 9 minus 7 being 2. So I have 12 times 2 plus 4 times 5 over, we're gonna simplify the numerator and the denominator separately. And so if you want to put kind of some parentheses around here just to remind yourself, you always are going to simplify the top and simplify the bottom separately before you deal with that. And so this is 2 to the 4th is 16, plus 3 times 3 is 9. Let's go back to the numerator. 12 times 2 is 24. 4 times 5 is 20 over, and since I'm doing, I might as well do one step on each since I'm keeping it separate. 16 plus 9, I can go ahead and simplify that to 25. And so now I can do one last step, 44 over 25. And this would be an example of one that would feel like you did something wrong because it didn't work out to have any common factors. You can't reduce it. Didn't work out to as a nice number. And to that, I say sometimes it just works like that. So 44 over 25. All right, example 2. Let's substitute 3 in for that variable. So we have 45 divided by 3 times 5. And here is a perfect example of that multiply divide scenario, because if you just follow these rules, you would think you would multiply first, but these go together from left to right. So you're going to perform this operation first. 45 divided by 3 is 15. So 15 times 5 is 75. You would not get the same thing if you did this multiplication first. You would not have the same answer. So you want to make just real big caution on that. All right. B, we're going to substitute negative 3 in for this x. Notice that there's already a negative here. So this negative is this negative, and then I'm going to write out negative 3 squared minus 5 times negative 3. I have 2 negatives right here, so that's going to change to a positive. Squaring it would have changed it to a positive anyways, because even if it was negative 3, if I multiply 2 negatives and by squaring them, it would still be a positive 9. Plus, because a negative 5 times a negative 3 is a positive 15. 9 plus 15 is 24. All right, we're almost to the end of chapter 1. Congratulations here. So now we're going to tie in the distributive property and adding like terms. Not quite sure why it's in this section and not that other section with adding like terms, but sometimes you're going to need to distribute and then simplify afterwards. So here we have a -3 in front of this parentheses. We want to distribute, we are multiplying through by a -3. The negative goes with. So 7x just gets recopied down here. -3 times 2x is -6x. A -3 times a -7 is a +21. So if you have a negative in front of whatever, and here we don't even have a number, so I'll show you how to deal with that on B, all right? But the negative has to be distributed to everybody. And now if we have any like terms, we can add them. So 7x take away 6x leaves us just 1x. And if you'd like to put that 1, that's fine, +21. On B, notice how I only have one variable, but I do have different exponents. So things need to match, terms need to match in both the letter chosen and the exponent. And we revisit this concept in chapter 4. But the piece that's the distributive, let me try that again. The distributive piece, there is no number right here. And so there is a 1 that is implied. So write that 1 if you want, because you need to multiply this through before we add and subtract. I guess that's the tie-in to the order of operations, is we need to multiply that through the parentheses before we add and subtract. So that 4y squared is just going to come straight down, minus 2y. And then this is just going to change the signs. That's going to be the impact. So that's going to go -8y, and then a negative times a negative is a +y squared. And then these are like terms. So 4y squared plus 1y squared is 5y squared. And then a -2y and a -8y, both are negative, so we add them together, minus 10y. And then you can try this one if you'd like. First thing you're going to do is multiply through by that -1 right there, so minus 9x plus 10. And then I would just rewrite past the parentheses, nothing is going to change. My x's, it looks like I have a -9 and a -4, so minus 13x. I have a -2, a +10, so now I'm at +8 plus 1 more, and so I'm at a +9. And that's the end. So that completes chapter 1. Please reach out to me if you have any questions on my math lab that you can't answer. One option is always to take a picture of your screen and just text it to me, or write it out on a piece of paper. You can always hit those like show me and try another option, but it's nice. I want you to know that I'm here to answer your questions as they come up. So good luck on that practice. Once again, if you are watching all of this and all of these skills are things you have, you can kind of pre-test out of this and take the pre-test. And as long as I see that you scored, I think I said 23 out of 26, and so a high B or an A, it shows me that you have all these skills and you're ready to move on to more challenging chapters. So take care, and thanks for watching.